welcome to this week's video in which I show how to make this hair accessory. And I already filmed an intro, but it didn't quite show how it would actually look on, so I'm gonna go ahead and show some close-ups. And here is a bit of a better close-up. I love how the pearls move when I move my head. I know that the clinking sound will get old real fast, but for now I'm just really liking it. And a super close-up of the roses, and I think it looks real pretty. Here is the hair accessory we are going to be doing today, and if you want you can just make the big rose and leave all the pearls out, or you can put some pearls but leave the smaller one out, or if you want you can just do the smaller one. Mix and match. Things you will need: a giant rose, some smaller roses, loose rose petals, some pearls, glue, scissors, felt, and any kind of clip that you want to use to attach the rose. So yeah, excuse me filming this on my floor, but my sewing table is full of a sewing project and I want to do this now. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and see how many things I can super glue to my floor. So let's go ahead and get started. So what you want to start with is take your rose and your felt and cut a nice round base for your flower. Then you want it to be a bit bigger than the huge rose, because we're going to need a bit of room to add the smaller roses around it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut a circle out of this felt. And there we have our base. And next I'm gonna take my smaller roses. These are nice silvery ones. All of my flowers here are thrifted. I got these secondhand. These were in a Christmas ornament and I just kind of cut them out of those and threw away the little centerpiece that it had. And these are really pretty. At least I love these. So I have some silver roses, but these are just painted, I think. So you can buy any color and spray paint or use any kind of paint. Yeah, so mine are thrifted, but you can find roses pretty much anywhere. And the rose petals that I have, I've actually bought from eBay. They come in thick slabs and it came with like 1,000 petals, so I'm never going to run out of these. So I'm gonna go and take single leaves or petals and then take my silver roses and glue them together so that the black loose petal peeks under the silver rose. Like so. So I'm just gonna put a bit of glue to the bottom of the rose and attach the petal to it. And I have some glue that I've never used before because I can't be bothered to go and take my hot glue gun because I hate having to wait for it to dry, and I really don't want hot glue on our awful plastic floor. So I'm gonna use this. I have no idea whether it's good or not yet, but it's what I have, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try. I glued my fingers in. Okay. Ow. 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 It's covered in glue. But it's not sticking. God damn it. God damn it. Well, that did not work, so I gave up and I'm using hot glue, and this is what I do. I just attach the loose petal onto the rose the best I can without burning myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and make more of these. Just put the glue kind of all over and take your petal so that the black peeks from under the rose, and then just push it on. Ow! Haha! And it's hot! Yeah. Now that I have some flowers ready, I'm gonna go ahead and see how many more I would need. So I'm gonna take my felt and my giant rose, plunk it down the middle, and then try to arrange the silver flowers around it to the edge of the felt and see how many I need. I think my felt is a bit too small, because when I try to put my big rose in, it just pushes the smaller roses out. So I'm gonna need to make a bigger felt, so I'm gonna be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and made a bigger felt circle, and then I have placed my tiny roses just around it, so that now when I put the giant rose in the middle, there, well, that just flew, but there really is no room to see the felt, because the small roses cover the extra space. So the next thing I'm going to do is start to hot glue the small roses to the edge of my felt. And I'm probably going to add some kind of lace to the bottom side of this, but I don't know yet. We'll see. But I'm going to go ahead and continue to glue these on. And I'm going to place the glue on to where the stem of the flower is, because that is a really sturdy place to put the glue, and then attach the rose to the to the base. My partner's screaming while playing, so I'm gonna go ahead and glue these on. And I am placing them to the edge so that the flower comes over. is about half of the flowers glued on. And here is what I have so far, the base. Here it is from the underside. And as you can see, it is not completely round, it is more ovally, because my rose, despite trying to make it rounder again, it is kind of squished to the side, so I wanted the shapes to match. So now what you want to do is try and see if the fit is good, because you really want it to be a snug fit and you don't want to make the base too big, because now when I force the big rose in, I have to kind of fold the smaller roses out a bit so that it curves slightly, and you want it to do that because now when you put this in or on top of your head, because it curves with your head, because this is decent size, this is quite big. So if it is completely straight, then it's going to kind of peek out at the edges, and that is also why you don't want to use a too firm fabric for the base. That is why I'm using felt, because it is moldable. So you want it to be tight, and also when it is tight you can't see the felt under it because there is no extra space to see it from. So I'm going to go ahead and glue the giant rose to the middle. Ow. And hot glue is hot. Ow, my hands. And here we have oh, my hands. And here we have the base for the hair accessory. And as you can see, it is curving like I said, and that is a good thing. And next I'm gonna see if I add some lace to the edges later, because that is probably going to need to be sewn on, and I have my glue attached to the wall. So what I'm going to do next is attach my clips. Now you can use any type of clip that you want, but I happen to really like alligator clips, and because this is such a sizable hair accessory, I'm going to place two, one to the more top and one to bottom, and I want to put them so that these are up and down instead of left and right, because I might want to attach this to a headband at some point. So I'm gonna go ahead and glue two of these in. And when you are gluing this type of clip, you want to hold it from here, because this is metal, it gets very hot. So just hold on to this bit. And maybe don't have these long nails while you're doing this. Let's see how it goes. And don't use too much glue, because if you do, then it can easily get into the teeth and then you can't open it anymore. So beware. These are words from experience. Let's try to use my left hand. Oh god, this will not end well. And I'm going to go ahead and let this dry. For the smaller clip, I have two of the roses that I made before. I just trimmed the petal just a bit. I took the very tip off and I cut tiny piece of felt so that it just covers the underside of the two flowers. And I also took two of the loose petals and cut the very tip off, and I'm gonna go ahead and glue these all together. First I'm going to take the loose petals and glue them on so that they peek just a bit from around the felt, and then place the two roses on top so that you have the black petals surrounding the whole thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this. And here we have the smaller hair accessory bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and glue a fastener here as well. There. And the next thing you're going to do is want to try it on. I currently have a mohawk, which means that I do not have hair on the sides of my head, so I can't attach this to, you know, bald. So instead I put on a wig and I messed around it with a bit, and then I put it on this wig stand so that I could fiddle around with the beads more. And I'm gonna show you how I put the beads in a minute, but you want to get an overall feeling of how you want the balance to be if you are putting on the smaller accessory as well. And it is now a tiny bit lopsided, but I had to put the hair accessory up enough so that the styrofoam head won't fall over. So I just played around with the lengths that I want the beads to be and how I want them to go all around, because I want these to come longer, like past the tip of my ear, whereas I want this side to be shorter because I want the focus to be on this side, but I still wanted something to balance it on this side. And I like how the pearls go over, because my favorite hair accessory to wear with Lolita is a headband, and this gives that kind of, it goes over my head, so it's a familiar silhouette. But I'm gonna show the beads in a bit, but this is just to show that you want to see how it looks on, and you want to try and fiddle around with it. And if you do have a wig stand or a fake head that you can put it on and mess around with it, it is the best. But of course you can do it just by playing around with it in your own hair or while it's on the table. Okay, so what I did is I took my pearls and I wound them around the big rose until I found something that I like. So if you watch closely, you can see the pearls in between, and I really like that look because these are really long, and at first I thought about cutting it to pieces and then gluing just those on, but now I like having the pearls peek through, so that if it's really windy or something, then instead of seeing just black felt, you get to see the blue pearls. So I just wound them around the roses, and I made two bigger loops to be on top of the ear, and on the top I went around one rose and it's coming down as a loop, and I'm going to glue the pearls to the underside of the smaller accessory and have it dangle a tiny bit from under the rose. So that is the overall look I am going for, and it took a while to get it right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and use tiny bits of glue to glue the pearls in, and I'm going to do that with the hair accessory on this wig. I'm just going to use the extra felt to cover the wig so that I don't get hot glue on my synthetic wig. That would be just horrible and unrepairable, but I want to take the chance because I don't want to take this off and possibly mess up the pearls. I spent at least 30 minutes fidgeting with these, so you might want to take your time, but there really is no other tutorial tip that I can give you other than just mess around until it looks nice. So I did just that, and I have my glue warming up, and I'm going to go ahead and put some glue into strategic places, and I'm going to try and get the pearls from under the accessories so that you can see them coming out as little as possible, so that they kind of come out from under the roses instead of coming on top of the roses. So naturally, I ran out of glue when it's the most precarious stage, because this is so heavy it can topple at any moment. So I'm gonna head and carefully look for more glue. So cut. Gluing the pearls on, but I'm left with a tiny gap in between the roses because, like I said, the hair accessory curves with your head, so it left a tiny blank spot. Otherwise it's pretty snugly rose against rose. So I looked through my drawers and found a teeny tiny black rose. It's smaller even than the silver ones. So I'm gonna glue this into the hole so that if you happen to see this from the back down side from my head, which is a really awkward angle to be looking at, you're going to see a black rose instead of just black felt, because that way it still has some kind of detail but it's not jumping out, because at first I thought about putting a silver rose in, but that just looks awkward. So I'm gonna go ahead and quickly glue this black rose on. For the smaller rose, I put the head accessory on its back, and I'm going to glue this with its belly side up, so to speak, and glue it like so, because this way it's a lot easier to hold and glue. So one side at a time. with gluing. If you wanted, you could add some lace to the edge. For example, I would put this black cotton lace and sew it to the edge of the felt, like so, so that it peeks from under it, and that would look really pretty. But this is pretty darn big as it is. It's a tad bigger than I planned it to be, so I'm gonna go ahead and not add the lace and thus make it even bigger, because then it would be a bit too big for my taste. But if you wanted, you could add some lace as a final detail. And the hair accessory is now finished. I am really happy with how it turned out. It is nice and showy and flamboyant like I wanted it to be, but it still has a bit of balance, and I love the mix of the different blues so that I can match it with different shade of blues in my clothing. So that was it for this week's tutorial, and I will see you again in the next video.